the smartest film critic in the world, Cole Smithy.
Hi, this is Cole Smithy with ColeSmithy.com and your guide to what to see and what to avoid at the movies this week. Independent dramas don't come any better conceived or executed than this impressive debut outing from writer-director Destin Daniel Cretton.
I promise you, it's not. Grace will vouch for me.
It depends if you tell it right.
There's no way not to tell this right. It is a storyteller's wet dream.
Based on Cretton's personal experiences working in a group home for at-risk teenagers in Southern California, the upstart filmmaker made a 20-minute short film that he used as a springboard for a feature that brims with socially aware accuracy. In a narrative terrain ripe with the potential for preachy moralizing, Cretton avoids the trap by dovetailing organic plot and character details with an invisible style of exposition that accumulates into a perfectly whole form. Brie Larson's beguiling performance as Grace, the social program's sensitive but ardent supervisor, is an understated tour de force. Larson's ineffable ability to contain multiple emotional and intellectual intentions with a naturalistic earthiness is the stuff of a breakthrough act. Certainly, Hollywood should sit up and take notice. On the sly, Grace lives with her equally capable co-counselor Mason, played by John Gallagher Jr.
New member of our community?
She's been in and out of group homes for dangerous behavior. I told her father we'd take good care of her.
I take good care of everyone.
The 20-something couple can't help but bring their work home. Their own troubled backgrounds bring an added dimension of insight and purpose to the film. Cretton inducts the viewer gradually into the predictably unpredictable nature of existence for the young adult supervisors and the troubled teens they are entrusted to keep safe. Nate, played by Rami Malek, the author's alter ego, is a new hire supervisor whose character serves as a purposefully placed buffer for the audience to comprehend the challenging nature of dealing with kids whose precarious emotional stability can spontaneously combust. Grace takes special interest in helping Jaden, played by Caitlin Dever, a new girl at the facility whose difficult defense mechanisms disclose as much as they conceal. As the story unfolds, Grace's bond with Jaden enables a series of revelations that give the film its unexpected hook. Short Term 12 is an original gem of a film that brings something new to the table. Socially instructive without falling prey to a single cliché, it is an admirable example of a modern approach to storytelling.
You know we can do this, right?
It's a movie that could just as easily be used as an instructional film for counselors as it could for filmmakers. Most importantly, it's an entertaining drama that is equal parts heart and message. I give this outstanding independent drama an A+.
Ever had one of those nights that starts out like any other, but ends up being the best night of your life? I did.
Although it exhibits nowhere near the level of inspired deconstructionist comic sophistication of Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz, the latest effort from the writing team of Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright has enough witty panache to compensate for its failings.
12 pubs, 12 pints, from the first post to the world's end. But that night...
The movie is all about the setup, something that becomes a crutch disguised as a narrative tick as the story unfolds. 5 former high school friends from the tiny hamlet of New Haven, England, come together roughly 25 years later to right the wrongs of their most storied night of alcohol-fueled debauchery. After their high school graduation, the 5 Musketeers attempted to drink a pint of beer in each of the town's 12 bars on a single night. They didn't make it to the finish line. It's time for a do-over. Gary King, played by Pegg, the loser of the bunch, gets the bright idea to reunite his long-lost mates while telling their story of drunken revelry at a substance abuse meeting. Pegg's gift of gab motors the movie even when the on-screen action flags. Gary uses his wits to convince his domestically minded pals, Oliver, played by Martin Freeman, Stephen, played by Paddy Considine, Peter, played by Eddie Marsan, and Andrew, Nick Frost, to return to the scene of the crime, namely an area aptly dubbed the Golden Mile for its many pubs. Gary rifles through the designations of the 12 bars like a well-memorized soliloquy.
Just you get on your way.
Names like the famous cock, the two-headed dog, and the old familiar roll off Gary's salivating tongue. While it's entertaining to watch the long, out-of-touch men settle into crumpled versions of their former selves, the film's Assemble the Team first act takes up a few scenes too many. Part of the problem is that the screenwriters don't bother to drop any clues about where the main plot line is heading. As a result, the film's second act craziness, involving a Stepford wife kind of revelation regarding the locals of New Haven, arrives without sufficient preparation to make the plot twist click in the viewer's mind. More questions are raised than answered. Once on their nostalgic mission of drink and ruin, the boys discover that all is not as it appears. One bar looks exactly like the last. Call it the Starbucks effect. The filmmakers squander an opportunity to address changes in the landscape of craft beer that have added considerably more flavor and alcoholic content to many adults' favorite beverage. Little more than a passing reference to hops informs the tidal change that has occurred in the beer world in the past 15 years. The gang's slippery slope toward inebriated oblivion is tempered by a bigger challenge involving the attenuated mental and physical state of nearly everyone around them. Suffice it to say that a prominent science fiction element co-opts the movie without adding much more than a series of well-choreographed slapstick set pieces to the action. Pierce Brosnan makes a glorified cameo appearance that helps usher in a showdown between our 5 heroes of personal liberty and the shady forces responsible for enslaving humanity.
We are going to get to the world's end if it kills us. Oh no.
Surveillance, overpopulation, and forced consumerism receive a light roasting in a film that probably would have been better if it had been written a year later. In any event, The World's End has its heart in the right place about where Western society is headed, and it ain't pretty. I give this fair comedy a B-. My sleeper pick is Wong Kar-wai's The Grand Master. My guilty pleasure pick is Claude Miller's Thérèse. My must-have DVDs are The Devil's Backbone from Criterion, the Cream Farewell Concert Kino Classics Remastered from Kino Lorber, and The Extraordinary Adventures of Adele Blanc-Sec from Shout Factory. Made in 1955, Rebel Without a Cause is a pivotal film for many reasons, each as important as the next. The second of just 3 features that James Dean appeared in, East of Eden 1955 came before, and Giant 1956 followed, Rebel unintentionally propagated the juvenile delinquent culture it sought to satirize. By the time someone properly christened it Rebel Without a Clue, decades had passed. The movie was based on psychologist Robert Linder's Freudian-themed 1944 book, Rebel Without a Cause, The Hypoanalysis of a Criminal Psychopath. Director Nicholas Ray took advantage of Stuart Stern's script version of an adaptation by Irving Shulman in order to subvert Linder's thesis-based narrative into an exploitation B-movie complete with a fantasy version of American teenage culture, something that had never before been so dynamically fetishized on the big screen. The film set off a firestorm of copycat behavior from entitled, read white, children of the 50s who could easily afford to take liberties with the blank attitudes of the film's young characters. Blue jeans t-shirts and hot rod cars became status symbols in the age of post-McCarthy blowback. The story applies dime store psychology to Jim, played by James Dean, a parents-abusing sociopath with a winning smile, Judy, played by Natalie Wood, a remorseful 16-year-old tart whose father can't stand his daughter's blossoming sexuality, and Plato, played by Sal Mineo, a non-white gay kid searching for a substitute family, if not a male repository for his overflowing affections. Plato's subplot reaffirms Hollywood's chronic premise that gay characters must be punished. A group of high school bullies and their cheerleader girlfriends, of whom Judy is one, represent a pernicious threat to everything their parents have worked to provide, namely the societal status quo. The views expressed in the movie are hardly defensible. Los Angeles high school senior Jim Stark, played by an implausible 24-year-old Dean, dresses like a model torn from the pages of Esquire. He wears loafers with a coat and tie that would fit in better at Oxford than in boiling Los Angeles. Jim is all torn up inside because his overbearing mother, played by Ann Doran, wears the pants in the family, while his henpecked father, played by Jim Backus, is so thoroughly feminized that he wears a woman's apron to do the house cleaning. Talk about protesting too much. Jim is the worst kind of spoiled brat. His filthy rich parents have moved repeatedly from town to town rather than directly address Jim's confused rite of passage to become a man. Their advice is always to tell the truth and not agonize about things that will seem comical in retrospect as he grows older. Strong-willed women are as much of a menace to society as the jean-wearing bullies that make up the rules Jim faithfully follows. That James Dean perished in a car accident before Rebel Without a Cause was released only added to the mythology surrounding the movie. Few young audiences at the time were capable of comprehending Dean's iconic creation of character for what it was, a carefully crafted combination of method acting techniques toward building a successful film acting career. Strangely, Dean's utterly inappropriate acting style gives the movie its narcissistic rudder. Thanks for watching, and visit ColeSmithy.com for more.